Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Bowl of Embers Extreme. This is the third and final encounter of the new Primal Extreme modes made available by patch 2.1. This fight is actually quite simple if you look at each difference in mechanic, and coming out of Titan I have full confidence that you'll have our toasty little friend down in no time. My name is Ms. Tech and I'll be your Primal guide. We begin by pulling Ifrit to the northeast corner, roughly around the 1 o'clock position. This is to prepare for the first set of plumes. In Extreme, plumes will cover the entire arena, and Ifrit only gives us two tiny little safe spots, the first one being at the 1 o'clock position and the other on the opposite end of the room at 7 o'clock. Note that after each Hellfire, the safe spot for the room-wide plumes will change, going from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock and finally 3 o'clock. The active tank after each Hellfire should reposition Ifrit in the appropriate spot in preparation for the next set of plumes. The raid will stack behind Ifrit near his right hind leg, with the healers hanging out a few steps behind. The first new mechanic you'll encounter is Searing Wind, a debuff placed on one of the healers that alternates between the two throughout the fight. This debuff does a massive AoE blast and knockback to anyone in range of the affected healer, and obviously we can't have this going off in the raid stack. The way our group handles this is simple. We have the healers waiting behind the raid for the first stack to go off. Once it's out, the affected healer will run to the west of the room and hang out there until the debuff wears off. The unaffected healer will be hanging out in the center of the room. This positioning will allow the unaffected healers to avoid any group eruptions. Instead, they can focus on healing. Once the debuff has about 5 or 6 seconds left, its last pulse will go off and the affected healer can begin to move in to switch with the other healer. Ifrit will always alternate the debuff between the healers, so you need to get into the rhythm of bouncing in and out throughout the fight. Tanks also have to handle a stacking debuff throughout the fight called Supernation. This is applied by Ifrit's frontal cone and will decrease the tank's health with each stack. As such, tanks will need to provoke off of each other at 3 stacks. You may notice that we like to position ourselves in a weird lopsided triangle thing. We have the active tank move a little to the right so that Ifrit isn't really perpendicular to the outer edge. The second tank will hang out on the other edge as well, behind Ifrit's cleave range, but not stacked with the rest of the group. This positioning is again for the eruptions. Eruptions cannot be interrupted and can happen in one of two ways, what we call either a group eruption or a tank eruption. The first eruption you'll encounter is a group eruption that will target 3 DPS. Since we don't want eruptions happening all over the place or on top of the healers, the raid will move as a group towards the right and around the outer edge of the arena. It's all about control on this fight. Remember, the less your healers have to move, the easier this fight is going to be, so the middle and left sides are definite no-no spots. With our weird triangle position, the off-tank is usually out of range of the group eruption or can easily avoid it by running into Ifrit's hitbox. When it's time to taunt, the 2 tanks will switch spots to maintain Ifrit's position. The second type of eruption you'll come across is the tank eruption. This is a single eruption cast on the current off-tank and is the main reason that the off-tank doesn't stack with the rest of the group. In this position, only the tank will have to move out of the single eruption and the rest of the raid can stand still and pump out maximum DPS. Up next, a set of 4 infernal nails will spawn around the room. DPS should pull off of Ifrit and begin to work around the room, killing each nail at a time. We like to go clockwise to avoid the scary healer on the left. When killed, the nails will pulse a room-wide AoE and put out a short-lived stacking debuff on everyone, increasing the amount of damage they'll take from the next nail. To avoid overwhelming your healers, DPS should kill 1 nail, either wait for the debuff to fall off or get healed to full before moving on to the next one. You are under a bit of a time constraint here. If all the nails are killed in time, Ifrit will cast a non-lethal Hellfire. If you don't kill the nails in time, Ifrit will cast his ultimate Hellfire and you will die. There are 3 nail phases in this encounter, each one getting tougher and tougher and each one its own DPS check. As such, DPS need to down the nails as fast as possible while coordinating with the healers not to go too fast. Before we go on, a tip for the healers during the nail phases. Normally, the debuffed healer will be on the left side of the room when the nails go out. The DPS will begin on the right side of the room and work their way around. To avoid being in the way, the healer that gets debuffed in the middle of the nail phase should instead move to the right of the room, where all the nails should be cleared already. This way, DPS can make their way around the left side of the room without getting punted. Heal through Ifrit's Hellfire Blast and reposition at the 1 o'clock spot. Ifrit will then cast a room-wide AoE plume with a teensy little safe spot near him, and another teensy little spot on the exact opposite end of the room. The raid stack will collapse on the 1 o'clock safe zone while the affected healer heads towards the 7 o'clock safe zone. Once the plume is over, the raid should reposition itself. Ifrit will eventually leap up again, this time to cast Crimson Cyclone. You'll remember this same rush ability from the hard mode. In Extreme, 4 Ifrit copies will spawn around the room in fixed positions. The group should run together to the first Ifrit to spawn and stand by him until he rushes to the outer edge. Once the first rush happens, the raid will run in a clockwise direction to the next Ifrit, easily dodging each rush. The affected healer has two options here. You can run and stand inside of the 4th Ifrit clone where you should be safe from the first rush. However, if you realize you won't be able to make it in time, it's sometimes easier to purposefully get hit by the first rush, heal up, and then stand your ground. You can easily survive one rush, but if you make a mistake while dodging and get hit by more than one, in all likelihood you will die. The more you practice, the easier it will be to dodge. Just do whatever it takes to survive. Once the rushes are done, Ifrit will reappear and the tanks can position him near the 2 o'clock position where the next safe spot for Plumes will be. Eruptions will go out, healers will bounce, tanks will swap, and the next set of nails will spawn. This time, more nails will spawn in a wide circle around the room. Again, DPS will pull off Ifrit and bring down the nails one by one, as fast as possible, taking care not to go too fast. The only new thing in this phase is Infernal Fetters, a chain that will link one DPS and the current off-tank. The effects of this chain will increase the further the two are apart. You'll be debuffed with a fire dot, take increased damage, and do decreased damage. To handle this, we usually get the off-tank and the chain DPS to focus on the nails closer to Ifrit, instead of going around the circle with the rest of the DPS. This way, the chain DPS isn't gimped, can still do something useful, and the chain tank can stand nearby in case they need to provoke. Once the nails are down, Ifrit will cast Hellfire and try to burn us to a crisp with another room-wide plume. This next part is the same rotation of abilities you've had tons of practice with so far. The last set of nails will be a crazy number of 12 nails around the center with one massive nail in the middle. Same concept here. You have a fair amount of time to destroy all of the nails, just take care not to go too fast. You've come too far to wipe to being greedy. Mind the tank DPS chains and watch out for the healers as you move around the room. Once all the small nails are down, you can melee Limit Break 3 the last big nail. Limit Break 3 should one-shot the big nail, so be ready to heal through its damage. Ifrit will leap up and cast Hellfire again, shield and heal. With about average raid damage, Ifrit will go down shortly after the big nail is killed. Remember that the third set of plumes will have a safe spot at 3 o'clock. Continue to dodge all the mechanics until he's down. Congratulations on your new weapons. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.